don't think we should talk about this.
Come on, why not?
People might misunderstand what we're trying to say, you know?
No, but that's a part of life.
Hi, and welcome to the Next Slip Within podcast, where we're going to be talking about sleep and performance, how you need to get the right amount and why it's good for you, and what's preventing you if you're struggling. So I've got Lewis Buxton on the other end of the virtual studio here. Hi, Lewis.
Hi, Michael.
Hi. Right, so we got this hot topic then of sleep, you know, something that we were born doing naturally. Babies sleeping more than they're awake, and then suddenly as we get older and we're looking to perform at our optimum or fulfill our potential, we can then struggle with either sleep deprivation or, you know, just simply a bit of anxiety or twitchiness or thinking about the day or the next day to come or whatever it is. Anyway, just thoughts that basically get in the way of us having a good night's sleep. So, I think it's really a fascinating topic. I'd love to hear your take on some of the things that we're seeing or hearing where kind of sleep coaches are being brought into clubs or even to businesses at CEOs that can't get a good night's sleep or getting burnout because they've had, you know, weeks on end surviving on less sleep than their body is optimally geared up for, and it causes problems. So, you know, is it a case of you know, the right temperature in the bedroom or the right feathers in the duvet, or is there's something else going on here?
I think that if you're going to set the scene is that people are coming off the back of a bit of a culture in business where if you're sleeping 9 hours a day that you're a bit soft or weak. I think that's kind of the general idea, isn't it? I don't know about for you, but that was slightly different in sport. But I think within business, it's kind of like pulling an all-nighter to get a particular project done and get it in the bag, or sleeping on average 4 or 5 hours, like Maggie Thatcher sleeping 4 hours a night. It's like almost like a badge of honour sometimes for people, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. You know, you've got some cultures where it's, you know, long work hours are something that are admired or seen as definitely a positive attribute, that you've got the stamina to continue, you know, and or do lots of travelling and function. You know, this when I was travelling out to Asia at the beginning of the sort of the century, really, early 2000s, I know it was kind of respected or unexpected as well that you would make a 9 or 10 hour flight almost halfway around the world and pretty much get picked up at the airport and go into the office because they're on a different time zone. You could be in the office at 2 in the afternoon, and then you'd go out with your colleagues or clients over there of an evening as well. So you're running a 9 or 48 hour day, and you're there for a week, and that's your first day.
Yeah, so it's almost like it's something you boast about in some cultures, isn't it?
Yeah, it's definitely something that, he's seen, as I say, as an attribute or a badge of honour. And then I think we all know that there's a, you know, the jet lag or anything else that comes with that is going to be a natural byproduct because you'll be back in the UK or back into somewhere else. And, you know, the Formula One example is classic of this, where your races are all different time zones, your friends and relatives and family are in a different place, and
I think they said that it's over something like 250, something like 250 or something nights they spend in hotels. The race team. Yeah.
I mean the definitely the sort of the senior guys in the team, those that need to be at every race and every meeting and are in the thick of it. Yeah, you're talking about 2/3 of the sleep nights are in a foreign bed, let's say. So it's really how you cope with that is one thing, and living out the suitcase kind of lifestyle, which we've all done, you know, to a certain degree of being mobile. And indeed, you haven't even got to leave the UK or Europe, you know, as a business person for that. It's nothing to be travelling up and down the country or different meetings at different times everywhere and living out of a suitcase. So you're still doing plenty of overnighting. And you know, what impact does this have on your sleep, or how is this impacting your performance, I guess, more accurately, because you could still do a 12-hour stint or 14-hour day, but what has the quality been? What could you have done that in had you been alert and let's just say a fully functioning mindset?
Yeah, and I think, like we spoke about before, I've got a friend in Formula One. I think that it's a hot topic there because spending 250 nights kind of in a hotel, the competition is so intense. They're always talking about, you hear the leaders within the sport talking about the fine margins, you know, gaining a little benefit here and a little one there. That every single aspect is looked at within that sport, isn't it? You know, from the sleep, they're looking at travel, they're looking at the physical fitness of their team, they've got someone during the pit stop practices marking down how they're moving, you know, so from a physical perspective, they can see what this person can work on to get that pit time down. So they're really investing a lot of energy, a lot of money into getting any type of competitive advantage, aren't they? And sleep seems to be one that is on there. So I guess what we want to talk about is kind of at the moment the ideas around sleep is that there's certain things you have to have in place to get a good night's sleep. So I can remember going back to, like you said, as a child, some children, that they'll fall asleep anyway. You know, you take them out in the car, they can fall asleep. They can fall asleep while you're walking around a heavily lit shopping centre in a pram. They can be completely gone. You know, you can have them on your back. I remember my kids, I've had them on my back going walking, and it's not smooth ground. You know, it's bumping up and down, and they're just out like a light.
Yeah, I know. As a kid, I definitely was you know, I'd fall asleep at going to weddings or something because you're there in the hall while the music's blaring and everyone's partying. But as a kind of a 6 or 7 year old, once you hit the wall, that's it. It's lights out, you know.
And me and my wife, she'll say, "I've fallen asleep before on takeoff." So even before the flight's taken off, I've just dropped off.
Yeah.
And my wife's like, "I can't do that. I can't fall asleep on a plane because she's concerned that it's going to crash."
Yeah.
So, you know, it does happen, but it's very unlikely. So, I guess that's the distinction, isn't it? We're talking about you can get the like if you listen to a sleep expert, you can get the lighting right, so you can have blackout blinds in your room. You can get your pillow right, you can take the right pillow. You can get the mattress right. You can buy beds for like $8,000 if you want now. I think you sent me one on LinkedIn, didn't you?
Yeah.
It was about $8,000 or something, $8,000. You can get your nutrition right, so you're not eating too much before you go to bed. You can get and that includes your drink, you know, you're not drinking alcohol, you're not drinking caffeine after a certain point of the day, yet you'll get a chief exec who can't stop thinking about the day, or can't stop thinking about the race coming up or whatever it is the next day, and they're so invested in that thought that it wouldn't matter if they've got all those conditions perfectly set, they still can't sleep.
No, that's right.
So I think that's the key variable in it, and I've heard that from a client before. They're saying, yeah, even though I've got all these things in place, why is it I still can't sleep? And he's like, I need 9 hours to perform at my best. I need 9 hours. And I'm like, well, is that true? Do you really need 9 hours? Have you ever had a night where you've slept 7 hours and you've still performed at your best? Well, yeah, but I want 9 hours, you know. So I think it's that fine misunderstood element there where people who have gone through that whole process of getting everything perfect, the temperature of the room and all this stuff, but yet they still can't sleep. So like, that's where we come in with HX, isn't it?
Yeah, from an HX point of view, it's allowing people to see that thought is the variable about it. You know, I think it's pointing to the fact that pretty much everybody who's been on holiday would say or acknowledge that they've fallen asleep in broad daylight on a £20 sun lounger, you know, or on a towel on the bumpy beach, you know, and you're completely gone. And yet, why is it on your £8,000 bed and blackout blinds and all the rest of it, and it's still not perfect? or the humidity is not right, or whatever it is. And yeah, I think it's fascinating because it is fortunately something that pretty much is taken out of our hands automatically, in terms of we don't determine when we wake up in the morning, or when we actually physically drop off or go into a deep sleep. It's not us that's deciding that or diarising that and making sure it happens. And then on the other hand, we need to understand also that that must be us that's keeping ourselves awake, by concentrating on or repeatedly going through scenario planning or worst case or whatever it is you're preoccupied with, of really engaging in that thought and keeping yourself awake. Essentially, that's really what's going on. If that wasn't happening, you would be asleep.
Yeah.
You're almost forcing yourself to be awake, no different to being forced at your desk. You're just lying down, but you're doing the same thing.
Yeah, it reminds me of a coach. There's a lot of coaches switching. They're trained psychologists, but they're switching into HX, the principles behind HX, and they have done for a long time. So that gives you an indicator of the impact of what we're talking about. But it reminds me of one in particular where they'd come down, they'd had an event on, and they'd gone for a night in a hotel prior to the event. One of them had come down for breakfast, sat there eating their cereal. They'd had a great night's sleep, probably 9 hours or whatever. And the other guy came down and sat next to him, and the one who slept well said, "How'd you sleep?" And he said, "Oh, I didn't get much sleep. I probably only had 4 hours sleep." And immediately the one who got 9 was concerned and said, "Well, God, we've got this event, How's that going to impact the event? What did you do? Did you try something to get to sleep? What did you try?" "There's nothing. I just got up and did some work. I had some work to do and got on with that for a few hours, and then just went to sleep." And it was not a big deal whatsoever. So while one was completely concerned about him not getting those 9 hours, 8 hours sleep because they got a big event coming up, a 2-day event, how's that going to impact it? The other guy, well, if I can't sleep, I can't sleep. Just got up and did something, didn't make a big deal of it, wasn't trying to not make a big deal of it, he wasn't doing it as a strategy. He just, went with his own intelligence and thought, well, I can't sleep. A couple of things I can do, I'll get them done, and then when I can sleep, I'll drop off. So then they dropped off. So it's always the fact that if you have, for example, you have a baby, if you're a young father, a young mother, there's going to be times where you're knocked out of that 9 hour, 8 hours sleep routine you've got. So then it becomes, well, what do you make of that? Is that becoming a massive stress for you? You're becoming overwhelmed by the fact that you only got 6 when you should have had 8. So when you dig down and you get into HX, you understand how you create thoughts that's the real difference, isn't it?
It is, and that's the biggest leverage point for people. It's kind of, I'm thinking here about kind of for anyone listening to this who is struggling with sleep, whether you're travelling a lot or otherwise. I'd like to say that struggling with sleep is you don't have to be doing hotel rooms. You can do no hotel rooms in a year and still be struggling. And I think that what I would say to people is that even people who don't consider themselves to struggle with sleep, they still have nights or weeks where they're perhaps a little bit restless. And so what I'd kind of suggest is that it's not about the bed, because I've had lots of good sleeps in my own bed, and it's been blissful and peaceful and perfect. And then there's been other times when I have been restless, or had a night where I woke up and felt a bit groggy, and yet it's the same bed, it's the same room. And so it's pointing that obvious facts out to people, and saying the variability therefore must exist in the individual. At your level of brain activity, you're thinking, it's not got to do with the outside circumstances of the what our mattress is made of or anything else.
Yeah, and I think that the other part of that is adjustment, isn't it? Because people often will say, "I've just got to get used to it." But really what that means underneath is you've just got to let go of your ideology that you need a particular environment, a particular pillow to drop off
Well,
to
it's
sleep.
funny you say that because I got
You
a
know?
funny story about that actually, which a couple of my colleagues kind of with
Right.
me about at the time. I've been travelling for a little while. I think when I first started, kind of it was, I'd say, you become frequent, and I went through a phase where I was really struggling to sleep, and I remember getting my bag out, and I used to carry like a suit carrier overnight one, that just could take a couple of clothes, and they'd fold in half so everything could, like your suit wouldn't be creased up, and I'd just carry that normally. That'd be light enough. But I had when I got everything out of my car, my colleague was walking back across the car park and he's laughing at me because I had a pillow under one arm and the suit carrying the other, and he's like, "What's going on?" And I said, "No, I've been really struggling lately, and I think it's like I need my own pillow." So I packed my pillow, and I took that with me for a couple of weeks till it passed, and then I left it, thinking that the pillow had kind of solved it, if you like, or solved the problem, because I needed a low pillow, and the hotel ones I was staying were just too puffy for me. So that's what I had thinking about, and it's surprising, because I was doing these things, they've been quite weird in the check-in. Doesn't matter where you are, and thinking that was the cause.
Exactly, yeah. I know that I used to do that a lot as well. I used to take my pillow everywhere. But
it reminds me of my
for
daughter and
away
taking the
away
teddy
games.
or whatever,
That's what I was about to come to. Yeah,
the car.
exactly that. But it's not to tell people listening that don't take your pillow. If you want to take your pillow, take your pillow.
Yeah, of course.
But it's not, your pillow's not gonna determine whether you fall asleep or not. That's down to within you how much you've got playing on your mind, because like we said, you can fall asleep anywhere. And the children one is great because it just highlights it so clearly for people, and you say to them, when you have a young child, especially for people obviously who've got kids, they can relate to it more easily, but everyone can probably remember it as well. When you used to go to bed and you say, I can't sleep, I haven't got my teddy, or I haven't got my particular snuggie thing.
Yeah.
My kids had one that is like, it's like a ball. We had a sleep expert and she got all the conditions set up, and it had a ball and they like clutch onto it. And yeah, if I haven't got that, I can't sleep. But then full well that you've seen them drop out like a light in the car and they've got none of that. Things like that. So it's just the power of our own creation to say, look, I'm invested in my own thoughts here. I'm running them over and over in my mind. And the reason now I can't sleep is because I haven't got my particular toy. I haven't got my own pillow.
Yeah, and I think that's what's...
We're saying that's not the case,
No, exactly. That's just what's inbuilt with us, and with my own daughter, it's her favourite. Is Captain Marco, he's called, and he goes out. On the Saturday, he's always out, he's going with... It never used to, but he's become just more attached with him being around. It used to be like the favourite to sort of cuddle up with just to go to bed. Then it was kind of, I want to take him out with me, and it's funny, you just talking about it now, I never realised that my pillow at that time had become my equivalent of Captain Marco, that you're sort of dragging it around with you because you've got that inbuilt misunderstanding that there is something, the soft toy, the soft pillow that's gonna do it for you.
And that misunderstanding plays out in so many ways, because as well, when you have like a partner, when you have a couple and they'll sleep in a double bed or a king bed or whatever it is, I've heard from two different people, I'm sure I've heard it from the same person, I couldn't sleep, it's because when my partner's there I can't sleep. I've heard that one so often, and I'm like, okay. And then you'll hear somebody else who go, you know what, I quite like it when they go away because I can stretch out in the whole bed and I get a better night's sleep. And you're like, well, which is it? It can't be both, So turns out it's neither. It's just what you make of it. So,
but that's the funny thing, when you're having a really good night's sleep. I know my wife will often remind me that how annoyed she is in the morning if you've been snoring a little bit or something, or going over her side too much, and she give you a cup of elbow or you've had a knee somewhere. And you never felt a thing. You were like, really?
Yeah.
And so it's funny how the sort of the down content of the pillow can upset us, but a knee in the back is not too much of a problem.
Don't even notice
You're not batted an eyelid, no. So it is amusing. I think it's reminding people of this fact that it's going on for them, and the deeper that they understand really the psychological functioning of their own brain, not the content of what their own brain is kind of telling them the stories. but just how
Yeah.
that's working or how it's operating leads to a kind of a relief or some sort of closer reality check with your own sanity about the subject, and you can accept that a few dodgy nights is normal over the course of a year, and running with it. You know, the ability to be able to still perform despite that, and not getting fixated on it, so it does become you haven't slept well for 3 months, which of course, if you're losing out on what you need, you're never going to be able to perform optimally in that sort of state.
Yeah, I think so. And I think it's possible that people who stress less and are less overwhelmed, they're kind of not over-invested in what they think and their own ideas too much, and don't replay that over and over again and obsess on it. It's possible that they even need less sleep, you know, because psychologically they're functioning on a level that means that there's not a massive mental energy being burnt off, you know.
Yeah, it's interesting though that I think it's interesting about how hard you're working though when if your body's particularly fatigued, you know, you've had a long day, in terms of sleep as a recovery mechanism, if you like, for the body to physically recover. Whether that's you might have a digestive, you know, problem or irritation, things you don't even know about or you're not aware of, but your body's working away through the night to fight off a virus that you don't know you got yet, for example, you know.
Yeah.
But you're lucky because you almost got the flu, but your body dealt with it before it become, you know, anything more than that. And I think that's when people can kind of exhibit or understand that they're unexplained tiredness or whatever, because they've not been really working out hard or exerting themselves. But I think, when you do, then, we don't really know what sort of level of activity our body's having in terms of how busy it is during the night, repairing muscle, growing muscle, or as I say, dealing with the other threats that we encounter invisibly on a daily basis, you know.
Yeah. So I think that's probably, we've covered that well. So anybody that's gone through that process of trying to get more sleep, they've got all the conditions set in place that without that knowledge, that HX understanding there in place, I think you're still going to stress over whether you get 8.5, 9, 6, 5, 4 every now and then, whereas other people are not going to make a big deal of it, and they're just going to enjoy their day, even if they're a bit tired. They get that signal from their body, but they don't make a big deal of it, and they just, you know, go out and perform the best they can.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's it.
I don't think we should talk about this.
Come on, why not?
People might misunderstand what we're trying to say, you know?
No, but it's a part of life.